Clay Shirky is author of Here Comes Everybody, The Power of Organizing Without Organizations, and Cognitive Surplus, Creativity and Generosity in a Connected Age. You're listening to Remember, Remember from V for Vendetta, the movie that's practically a theme song for the Anonymous movement. Don't know Anonymous? They're the hackers who brought down MasterCard, PayPal, and Visa's websites after those companies cut off donations to WikiLeaks. You don't want to get on the wrong side of Anonymous. When the security firm H.B. Gary Federal announced it had uncovered the identities of the hackers behind those attacks, the Anonymous response was swift and brutal. H.B. Gary's servers were broken into, its emails pillaged and made public, its data destroyed, and its website defaced. Humiliated, HB's CEO Aaron Barr resigned. Now, because Anonymous is, well, anonymous, you can't exactly get them on the phone. However, there is a guy named Gregg Housh who's made himself their unofficial spokesperson. Steve Paulson's been wondering how that works.
You can't be, and that is a very dirty word when it comes to anonymous. If I were to ever say that or in any way admit to a reporter who asks that I would probably be in trouble. The way this really works is simply by being around them enough and having a name that had already been printed and already been run through, everything it could possibly be run through. I was out there, and when all this new round of stuff started to happen, the press, for the most part, like to print names. They don't like anonymous sources. And there's a lot of them that specifically, even in, the way they run the papers or their websites, they don't allow anonymous sources. So when they wanted to write about this, they came and found me because I was a name they could put down.
Uh-huh. So basically you are, I guess you could say, a member of Anonymous or a participant with Anonymous, but not an actual spokesperson.
Again, member is another one of those really dirty words that gets people in trouble because in the end, there isn't a group. Anonymous, technically speaking, doesn't exist. It's just an idea. You can't really be a member of an idea.
Now, I have to say, Anonymous has been called all kinds of nasty things. It's been called a group of domestic terrorists, an internet hate machine, the dark heart of the web. How do you respond to such accusations?
True. Absolutely. It's all those things. And it's also a great bunch of people attempting to do good in the world. And it's also just a bunch of kids in their basement posting pictures to sites like 4chan. It's everything and everything in between.
Well, that's fascinating that you would, in a sense, embrace some of these domestic terrorists. I mean, you're saying that's true, and you're affiliated with this group.
Well, what I'm saying is that anyone is affiliated with this group. I mean, to put it in an example that really will make sense, when the attacks started happening against Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, and all that, someone joined into the IRC channel where people were, talking about what are we going to do about this and said, hey, here's a really good IP to hit that belongs to MasterCard, and it would probably down their website. It's an internal IP. It's behind the firewall. All these technical things, he says. Then he disappears. For all I know, that was you. You could never convince me that it wasn't because we have no idea who it was. And that's how this works.
So let's suppose that some people who sort of attach to this idea of Anonymous want to bring down the website of MasterCard. How is that done?
Well, on a chat server, people go over there and they start a little channel where you can all talk about that specific subject. And they start deciding, the best ways to get the website to go down. Usually a DDoS is going to do it.
What is a DDoS?
A distributed denial of service. Basically, it's a bunch of users at the same time loading the website over and over and over, just sitting there hitting that refresh button nonstop. It overloads the server. These servers only have so much CPU and so much bandwidth, and when you fill it up, no one else can get through. So they sit there and they come up with their plans, they put the software together, and then they just start telling everyone, download this and run this, and down goes the website.
Now, I guess this raises the question of whether this DDoS, basically knocking a company's website offline, whether that's actual hacking. Is it?
No.
So what's the difference?
Well, hacking is, an actual targeted intrusion, an attempt to gain access to something. And hacking is technically being used in the wrong way in that sense, too. That's not what hacking really means, but that's what the popular culture has made it mean. Technically, it's cracking that's doing the bad stuff, but hacking in popular culture. H.B. Gary, the big attack on that security firm, that was hacking. They went in, they broke into servers, they stole email. You know, and a DDoS, a distributed denial of service, is very much just holding something down. It's, you know, a non-op's own description of it is very much a digital sit-in, you know, a form of civil disobedience.
Now, there have been anonymous hackings, right? I mean, for instance, wasn't there a hack of Gawker?
Yes.
Tell me how that played out.
Gawker is an interesting beast in that in some aspects of Gawker, some people who work there and some of the sites that exist for Gawker's network, they have been really nice to Anonymous. They did things early on when Anonymous was first starting to really, I guess, get to this size, and they put news about us. They put our press releases up. They posted the videos that we were putting on YouTube, things like that. This was back in early 2008 when the fight against Scientology started. And then for some reason, over the last few years, it slowly degraded to the point where internally they would do nothing but make fun of Anonymous, and they would only post articles that were very anti-Anonymous, and it was starting to annoy various Anonymous people. To the point where Nick Denton, the guy who, you know, runs Gawker, started saying horrible things that you just don't say as a business owner because there's no reason to attract the attention. He started saying things like Anonymous could never get in here, we're so secure, and they're just a bunch of kiddies. So of course,
so basically, he was daring. Yes, he was daring people to
absolutely
come and try to take us down if you can.
He was staring hackers in the eyes and laughing at them and saying, "You can't get into my network." So what did they do? They broke in and just obliterated the place. I mean, it seems to just kind of be the natural response to someone doing that.
So you know what I find interesting about Anonymous is there's clearly a political edge to this. I mean, you and your fellow anonymous people sometimes are going after groups of authority, you know, whether it might be the government, it might be powerful companies, it might be the Church of Scientology. And it's worth pointing out that Anonymous hacked the Prime Minister of Tunisia's website and sort of put on a message stating the principles of democracy there. So, I mean, all that is...
They did a whole lot more on those North African revolutions, too. I mean, that was just one site of many things that they did.
Okay. So, I mean, there was Anonymous played a role in the political, I guess you could say, political revolutions in North Africa.
They did what they could.
Yeah. And yet, at the same time, there is kind of this, I don't know how else to put it, but sort of smart-ass punk stuff that Anonymous does. I mean, putting a swastika on the top of Google's hot trends list, gaming an online poll that Justin Bieber fans had set up to decide which country he should visit first on his world tour, and the vote...
try and send him to North Korea.
To North Korea, yeah. Or, you know, in 2008, spreading a rumor that Steve Jobs had a heart attack and the shares of Apple plummeted $10. You may be silly stuff, maybe actually sort of damaging. I mean, you know, hurtful for no apparent reason other than just some people are getting off on this.
Yeah, the term is trolling. It's very much what it is. And I'm sitting here smiling because some of that I do find hilarious. Some of it's horrible. There are some negatives to the way things work, but those same negatives are very much the positives. And I know that sounds weird, but if you look at the way Anonymous works, the fact that anyone can be anonymous and, you know, its roots of where it really started. I mean, it really started out as a group of people trolling and doing things like that, doing whatever it took to have fun online. And it grew into other things, and, it ended up where it is today, doing a lot of, as you said, kind of politically motivated stuff. But there are still Anons who have nothing to do with all the what you might consider good things like, you know, the Tunisian Prime Minister's website and exposing all the crimes of H.B. Gary and these other security firms that they exposed that now are under congressional scrutiny. There are a bunch of people in Anonymous who are absolutely against all of that and want to just go have more fun trolling things.
They think this is taking things too seriously.
In their own words, which they have said very clearly on some of their websites, the Anons doing this stuff, specifically the AnonOps Anons, are ruining Anonymous's bad name. I mean, that's very much something they've said, and I find it hilarious.
Gregg Housh is not the spokesperson for or a member of Anonymous. He did, however, speak with Steve Paulson about Anonymous. You're listening to a hacktivist theme song from the V for Vendetta soundtrack. It's called Governments Should Be Afraid of Their People. Is Anonymous a gang of cyber terrorists or a group of internet freedom fighters? Join the discussion on our Facebook page. I'm Jim Fleming. It's To the Best of Our Knowledge from Wisconsin Public Radio and PRI, Public Radio International.